Yeah, it would have been this or a Leona as far as I'm thinking. This is a safer play for them.
Team Liquid really happy to play tanks up in the top side here. It could be their last day of Worlds, and no, it goes with a Gangplank. They're going to put impact on a champion that you can generally leave alone and will still have an impact on the game.
And Liquid fans, I challenge you. Put the draft side by side, what we saw in game number 1, now what we're seeing in game number 2, and just pick your favorite, because I think coming into Worlds, Assassin for Jensen, being able to dominate the laning phase. Weak side top laner for Impact with great global accent, and maybe the best aggressive bottom lane and jungle on the patch. This looks so much more promising, Jatt.
Yeah, I'm pretty shocked that they were able to last pick Gragas with the priority that Xmithie and TL has had it so far in this World Championship. So, quite happy about this draft for Team Liquid, and we'll see what AHQ is going to do, because it looks like they ended up going with a lot of counter matchups. We saw Vizichachi able to pull out ChoGath as a counter matchup to the Gangplank, and I said at the time, hey, maybe we'll end up seeing this in the quarterfinals. But this was also several days later. Ziv has potentially been able to refresh on his ChoGath mechanics, since he's a such old-school top laner who has played it much in the past.
And now I'm going to throw this one out there, right? Do you guys watch The Simpsons, Simpson fans?
Yeah,
have you seen?
Pretty sure.
I've watched like the first 300 episodes.
Okay, have you seen the episode where Homer tries to build the barbecue?
That one, no.
And you see the box, and then he lowers it, and he's like, why doesn't mine look like that? I feel like when you have a look at Liquid's lineup, right, it's like perfect. It all fits together. Everything's coming. And then you look at all the counter picks that you kind of see on the side of AHQ, and you see where it's going, but then you say, why doesn't my team comp look like that? I feel like it's just such a strange... This is... A lot of the champions like to go backwards, like to kite out. Then you have a supremely hard engage AD carry jungle duo, and I just don't see, apart from a lane counter pick, what ChoGath really does in this composition.
Well, it's going to be an exciting game all the same. AHQ may be eliminated, but Team Liquid still have a chance at being the one and only North. Well, we've got some Team Liquid fans in the audience, and of course plenty watching on the stream right now. TL, the last hope of the LCS. AHQ, sadly, their entire league failed to make it out the LMS, but they can play spoiler here.
They certainly can, and once again, we have a very scientific comp coming out of Liquid. You understand exactly what this composition wants to be able to do. They have a very good 2v2 in the bottom lane. They're going to look to gain pressure in the mid lane, rotate for bot lane dives. They have the Gangplank to supplement all of that. However, on the side of AHQ, they have picked purely for lane counters, I feel. And when you do that, you must win lanes.
And it seems like they at least have CC follow-up to chain with the Jarvan gank. So TL will probably look to either 2v2 mid and then crash that pressure bot lane versus just winning 2v2. AHQ is going to be looking to either kill Jensen or go up top and shut down Impact.
And with the one thing I will say about the AHQ comp is I feel like they do come online slightly earlier. Ezreal at 2 items outperforms most AD carries that are currently in meta, especially once the transform of the Muramana is there. Jarvan as well as Lissandra are also just great pick tools in the mid game. So I feel like AHQ are going to have the window around 15 to 20 minutes to set up the map and look for those kills.
Really small thing I want to point out when the crowd cheered for Jensen autoing Rainbow once. It's actually bigger than it looks because it put bone plating on cooldown, so that next time he does go for a poke with like the 40-second cooldown that has, he'll actually get the damage to stick, and that's pretty useful as the top laners fight back and forth. Klepto, by the way, for the GP. Again, Grasp has been the much more common keystone. Gonna farm up what he can as Ziv will try to push down.
Have to see how that one plays out. I feel like that's a very risky move by Impact because ChoGath is something that can actually match GP with early trades. Part of the way that GP gets through to level 6 and starts scaling his items is he's so strong really early on with Grasp auto attacks to be able to proc that. Impact can't do that here, so he's probably going to be giving over some lane priority to Ziv ChoGath.
Yeah, and as long as you can access a wave, you can stack up the Grasp with the Undying, you can trade very efficiently with the Parlay. That's the trading pattern we see. Also keeps the wave fairly neutral. However, going something like Kleptomancy does remove some of those options. I feel like Impact is going to have to continue to push the wave, because if Ziv ever is able to trade onto him, he'll kill him. And then the danger of pushing the wave is if you get hit by a Rupture, you might just die anyway.
I mean, we've seen Vizichachi dominate this matchup when he played ChoGath versus Gangplank. It was with an early gank, though, so really, we'll see how that works out. As Rainbow, you can already see just even the fact that he's been able to proc Aftershock when Jensen's been trading, even if he can't shove the wave that quickly, makes it strong for Lissandra.
In a slip move as well, ran forward to dodge the chain. Jensen didn't get the full trade out there as well. Want to point out TP on Jensen. We sometimes see cleanse on LeBlanc to get out of the flash engage combos. Jensen will not have that luxury if a level 6 gank comes in.
However, it is important to note the fact that Jensen still does have a potion available, whereas Rainbow has just chugged through every charge right now of that corrupting potion. So whilst there is parity in the HP bars, it is going to be a slight advantage for the TL mid laner, and this is a problem right now with Lissandra. She is very resource intensive.
Well, this is now TL slightly outnumbering as they fight over this bottom river. We've seen these fights go interesting for LCS teams before. They're still sticking around. DoubleLift gets flashed onto, his shields are there, and Albus gonna look for a whole bunch of damage. Not Albus, that's an old team, but still Alex taking the bunch there. Double force to flash away. Core has to flash as well. His spells are on cooldown, and now looking a little bit more. Alex finds another slow. The flash in for Rainbow, and they're gonna find 400 gold. CoreJJ drops as well.
And this is the thing about getting an early game comp. You have to be able to generate the lead. And once again, a North American team fights in the river, and it goes horribly.
You could see DoubleLift and CoreJJ actually had the lane priority in the bottom lane, but Xmithie spends so long on the Scuttle Crab, it allows Ezreal to make it all the way into the river, and DoubleLift is the one that's getting caught out. Normally, when you have bot priority, if you just stick with your jungler, the other team can't do this to you, but DoubleLift and Xmithie are out of sync, and then they think they're in the clear after flashing the wall, but Rainbow then has the mid lane push, willing to commit everything to get the root, and that's what gives AHQ the early edge.
And the decisiveness from AHQ, I feel like this is what we saw last time they played against Liquid, a fearless game plan. And again, we see, once again, everything thrown in there. That's going to be a flash used on Alex as well as Rainbow, but ultimately they do get the kills they needed.
Of course, the TP out of DoubleLift with a very awkward purchase there, a longsword and a dagger. Components of later items. We'll see if they can turn that one around right now. 900 gold lead puts AHQ ahead, about what you expect for early kills like those.
And now it's a flashless bottom lane. Team Liquid's stronger 2v2 is what they want to be able to play through, but it's so difficult now that they don't have river control and they don't have flashes on either of those players. So they're not really able to play through top anyway. It's meant to be a weak side top laner. The fact that the strength of their team now has to play conservatively will put Team Liquid behind for a good portion of this game.
And it should be on cooldown for when Alex does get towards that level 6. He will be able to get level 5 off the 2 remaining camps. Second buff is going to spawn just a couple of minutes. So when you have a look at how this game should play out, he should end up on the bottom side of the map with that ultimate, with a flashless bottom lane to attack.
TV comes back into the top side now as well. Managed to get pretty decent recalls on both sides. Impact with Sheen plus some extra mana regen. And on the other side, you got the full Ninja Tabby is there so that Ziv can chase his opponent down, right? No boots in the Gangplank. That can make things really, really scary. Nice root right there. Guarantees that Aftershock gets on. That trade's not too heavy from Jensen.
I wonder where the next play is going to be, because it's also the level 6 Lissandra that often wants to try and go aggressive. That's why Xmithie is here shadowing Jensen, worried about this play. The 2v2 from Lissandra level 6 is pretty strong still.
Has gone with early magic resistance as well. So should be able to shrug off a lot of what Xmithie's damage and Jensen's damage is at this stage of the game. No penetration picked up, and you can see that is very tanky. Well, surprisingly tanky for this stage of the game.
And let's see what AHQ can do here, because they've had a few advantages throughout this group stage that they have been unable to close out as Alex moves towards bottom, and they're looking to pincer a little bit.
Ward comes down, spotting him, but with the wave controlled as it is, the control ward dies just after it's placed. 100 gold difference for that kind of situation, but at least they spot the gank and no one dies for it.
However, I do like this from Alex, because the start of every good aggressive play is control. And look how much of that they have on the bottom side. Without flash, it's very hard for TL to be able to push out in that bottom lane. Now they're being invaded in the bottom side jungle, and you can see that this gives Alex more choices. He can either look to counter jungle, maybe go for that red buff once it respawns. Turret dive's always going to be on the table, and it looks like as they bring Rainbow into the play, that is what AHQ has decided.
Flashless, altless double, if this will be a tough one to avoid.
4v3 on level 5, here comes the potential dive on in, jumps forward, looks for the ulti, finds the root, finds a whole lot of damage with the knockup, comes in for CoreJJ. This could be the turnaround, a double root, but it's still a 2 for 1, no 2 for 2 as kills come across.
Jensen's on his way.
Only one direct for TL. It's actually been a positive situation so far as you've got a lot happening across this side. A big damage as Ysera's going to go down, and Wako's going to get hit, knocked into the air. Yet again, Team Liquid find a way to turn around the fight. No way out for the Ezreal. Auto attack slowly but surely. Jensen finds the kills.
And sometimes comp is just king. TL's comp is designed to play towards the bottom lane. And you saw, even with the advantage, even with the early movement, Gangplank's ultimate just swings the tide of that dive.
And that can be so huge for TL's morale. Starting the day, losing to Dom 1, starting this early game, down 0-2. And a good idea by AHQ to go in with this Lissandra, but they don't quite have the burst damage. And I think CoreJJ also got the Guardian Shield right here to make it very difficult for TL to die. Also, massive props to DoubleLift for getting such a multi-route, even though he was the target of that dive. And then finally Jensen does arrive, and I think does the right thing, right? He just cuts off the Ezreal, makes sure he kills the Yuumi first, and then it's easy to clean up and get the kills on the right person.
Yeah, and that's the important thing here. Watch Xmithie. As soon as he gets the body slam, he leaves. CoreJJ not even auto-attacking. They want the gold onto Jensen. We've already seen his LeBlanc wreak havoc across Summoner's Rift once at this Worlds. Now has himself parity back in that lane after a disastrous early game.
I gotta give a huge shout out to CoreJJ for how he played the fight, stayed as far away as possible to not be in the CC chain, so he was available to give double the shields and land the double knockup to help secure those kills. So optimal play right there. Made sure he didn't die first and had all the cooldowns available. As now this game state, look at this, 600 gold lead for Team Liquid. This is one they can absolutely win.
And now on the flip side, we're gonna have a period of time where Xmithie has the availability of ganking bottom lane, just because of the fact that Ezreal now doesn't have summoner spells. You always get the 2-for-1 special if you bring a Yuumi in as well.
Absolutely. We'll see how much Liquid is able to play like Liquid here. Because in the LCS, when they'd have a 2-kill Jensen, they can take so much vision control over the river and just crash plays down. They've also had a few disastrous river and dragon fights so far at Worlds, but they're looking to push through and they're looking to run their plays.
We've got 3 people here and an explosive cask available. Do they pull the trigger? That answer so far is no. Smite fight is gonna go to Alex, and there might be a slow coming out of Yuumi. Don't quite catch CoreJJ there.
And strange play there from Liquid, because it looked like they had all the boxes checked. They had CoreJJ rotating early. Ultimate was available, as you mentioned, Phreak. So that would have been a play that I would have liked to see them go for. They had perfect vision due to Gragas' cask, but a little bit hesitant in pulling the trigger.
They're still going to try to make some type of play happen bottom, though, as you can see already getting control while Jensen went missing, but they pull off. You can see Jensen again showing mid.
Ziv a little bit low up here. Not going to land the barrel, though. Impact can walk in for a Q. Earn another 5 gold and walk right back out. Is Core still waiting around? Now he's on a ward. Has to be a little respectful of the fact that Alex definitely sees him. The fight now on the bottom side, forcing the ult. Trading those back and forth. Longer cooldown, though, on DoubleLift.
Yeah, however, ult for ult trade is a good tool for Liquid if they're still able to continue to push it on that bottom lane. Yuumi's ultimate is one of the only tools they have to chase away a dive coming across. So I feel like they wouldn't be completely upset. And there is a time now where Impact is going to have his ult available and Ziv is not going to have a way to impact the play.
Right.
So I still think they should look for it, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
I think bottom side pressure will be consistent for them. Have to give credit to Impact using an ultimate bottom, going Kleptomancy, not Grasp, and still being at CS parity with Ziv. So helping keep Team Liquid in this game. And it's just about bottom side pressure and whether or not TL feels like they need to rush in this one, which with the normal Team Liquid composition, they don't typically have to, but you do want to see them eventually get control of the bottom side and get that Mountain Drake.
And I don't think it's about rushing. I think it's about looking for the plays that should be yours. You know, when you don't have summoner spells available on the bottom lane, when Yuumi's burnt the ultimate, that should be a time that you look to go aggressive because you do have tools. Sure, they still have scaling options available, but I want to see a decisive Liquid come out because you feel like they should beat AHQ. This is a game that lots of people would be taking for granted in this group, but they have to be able to beat IG if they want to proceed in this group stages.
Almost certainly. And we're going to see now as this moves forward. Ziv finds himself a knockup. Looking okay so far as the level 9 ChoGath has been just in lane the whole time. Hasn't been able to TP down to the bottom lane. Hasn't been able to do much of anything compared to Impact, who at least had that bot lane ultimate. And if you go equal after getting counterpicked, and yet the GP also helps the bottom lane, that is obviously a matchup going Team Liquid's way. Looking at the game state again, 900 gold separates the two.
And if AHQ goes for a fight, I think it would be relatively soon now that they're on Proto Belt for Lissandra. That's a big power spike. It doesn't necessarily mean he can outshove the wave because the mana costs are still very high, but if he doesn't get jumped on early, his in-fight power is at its height.
And another key cooldown is going to be Alex's stopwatch. That allows Jarvan that one-time reckless abandon, you know, dive on the backline and just secure the ultimate. Obviously, there are ways for most people on Liquid to be able to escape. But you're right, Jatt, if there is ever a time that you can just throw everything at TL, maybe around a Mountain Dragon, maybe around something like that Rift Herald, it could be now.
A little bit of damage there, no electrocute triggered though, and Jensen just clears away some minions.
And I think we also have to keep in mind, AHQ hasn't been the best team at having advantages in closing or getting the right play started. So TL does have control of this, and we're wondering if AHQ is going to be able to make the right play. They, you'd think, would want to do something around Jensen in the mid lane, who's gone cleanseless against Lissandra, but Alex hasn't been able to find any approach and is actually falling fairly behind in this game.
There's the Mount Drake attempt now, 14 minutes into the game, but it is being hit. The control ward's inside the pit. Team Liquid control bot and mid lane, and no one is even approaching the river right now. This should be a pretty easy pickup now. Still no answers being seen. In fact, the Jarvan's top side anyway.
And when the game is like this, when they're splitting the map, I always love to just cast my eyes to the mini-map and check out what the top laner did. Impact sacked his wave. He didn't go up there to be able to contest anything. Instead, walked down river, checked out the Scuttle Crab. Knew that the Jarvan was taking it, but knew that Jarvan in a one-on-one fight was not going to be able to beat him down. So that's very good weak side play from Impact. You can see him hovering between lanes as well. This is what we do when we judge how well a top laner plays weak side. Maybe someone like the Shy, already still at his turret trying to collect that farm. Impact backing very far away.
Yeah, you just saw another version of that, right? Didn't know if the Jarvan was sitting in the Triburst, didn't know if Cho was following the wave, sees that Cho's not with the wave, okay, no dive, cool, I can take the farm. This is why he so frequently has these zero-death games, and yet when he does know where the jungler is, takes those trades aggressively, fights for his farm, stays equal.
And even though this has been a very slow early game, it's been well controlled by TL. The fight in the river could have very easily just snowballed into a disastrous game, but you can tell the overall pace of the game is slower by the fact the Rift Herald is still alive. How many games is the first Drake taken at 14 minutes and then Rift still up? So you can see that AHQ actually had that first early chance to take control of the game, was unable to convert, and now TL is kind of back in the driver's seat.
And you can actually see TL think their way through a lot of these plays. You can see that maybe it is going to be Herald on the card next because CoreJJ deploys straight to River. You can see DoubleLift flipping into the top side of the map. And they're going to be able to get control over this area. Very good pathing once again from Xmithie. He wants to be there early, ignores the bottom side camps, knows that they can generate a fight. However, DoubleLift right now is under threat.
Gets the ult to get away from the knock, but at the very least, that is still a large cooldown missing, and once again, he'll be under threat next time they want to do something like this.
Well, that was very surprising to DoubleLift the Ziv stayed up there. That's actually the play that TL ran against Damwon to pick up a kill in the top lane. It's the fake swap where you're expecting the top laner to go, and he doesn't. The fact that he dodged that is fairly beneficial for TL.
Once again, trading blows with Rainbow's Jensen as the Herald is under attack, but now Alex is here. This smite fight could be a bit difficult. Looking at the eye going down, the smite comes over, nicely done there, and 1,000,000 damage comes across. Xmithie's already gone. AHQ is showing big signs of life.
And as much as I praised TL before, you have to criticize them there for taking an undermanned Rift Herald fight. The fact that Ziv had done the fake swap and stuck around, Impact was in the bottom lane, so therefore TL shouldn't have stayed on the Rift Herald. If they just wait, eventually Ziv would have had to match that wave, then they could have gone for the Herald.
Because there is no lose situation there for TL. They have a stronger 2v2, so if Ziv stays top to try and fight over the Herald, they're just going to build an advantage on the bottom side of the map. If Ziv never collects that, you're going to have an out-of-control Gangplank, so completely agree with you. That is an overreach. And this is what they need to clean up. You already see Jensen has rotated into this top side.
DoubleLift respectful of this. Oh, here comes the ult, and look at the immediate knock of ults from Fog of War. Waits that little internal cooldown out, and now CoreJJ just walks right away after that kill comes through.
Much better decisiveness from Liquid. They are able to pick up the kill, and you can see that they are also managing to farm the mid-lane wave with Impact. That's a teleport they also got out of Ziv there. Very nice setup on the play.
That was a lot of damage very quickly.
Yeah.
The Ezreal just evaporated under the turret. Now they move straight to mid.
They can threaten to dive on a Rainbow. Now that ultimate should be available to save him in case there's anything too spicy happening, but you never know. A TP defensive comes in. They are somewhat hiding it as well by not putting it on the outer turret, but Nothing to be done there. Out they go, and Team Liquid call off the dive. They'll just take the farm and walk away.
Okay, so now let's take stock of what's happening on the map. Liquid need to reset, and this is a great read from AHQ. They immediately drop the Rift Herald. They're either going to pull them out of the reset, which means they're not going to have the control wards or the items to fight, or they're going to get this turret.
A lot of damage at the very least. Xmithie could be in danger. Walks backwards, stays alive just enough. Explosive cast. Not going to find the engage, though. Not going to really find DoubleLift. There goes the turret. Here comes the attempt from Jensen, but no. Once again, they find Xmithie, and Gragas goes down twice in a row now. The re-engage on Ziv likely to not happen. Jensen in the wings, going to find a root. There could be something. Impact coming over as well. Barrel chain lands. Half HP left. They're still looking for ChoGath, forcing the flash out. Here comes the root out of Yuumi, and they're going to get a lot onto Impact. Might be the re-engage. Ulti finds absolutely nothing, though. That cannon barrage hits nobody.
Good read by AHQ overall, and again, TL end up taking a 4v5 fight. You thought maybe the teleport would be enough to share or push AHQ off the turret, but Jensen kind of this whole time was looking for a flank in the back and never quite found it.
But look at where Impact is again. This is another time that TL are trying to defend a mid lane turret at a numbers disadvantage. There is just no way you can pull Impact into the playing time. So despite everything going right, that is a good ultimate from Xmithie. Jensen gets so many people on that. It's still just going to be a one-team fight for AHQ.
AHQ has Lissandra. The way they win is going in Lissandra ulting a person and winning the fight. The engage is so darn reliable when compared to how many compositions have to function now, and TL is just not respecting it there.
And I feel like the power of Yuumi in those fights can never be understated. The continual heals that come across, the ability to make someone slightly tankier than you would expect, and just the additional chase and damage that you are able to manufacture. She's an invisible champion, so it's very hard to gauge their skill, but so many times I hear people be like, a 1v3, but really, Yuumi doing more than a fair share of lifting in those fights.
Yeah, and especially after so many of the nerfs, Yuumi's laning phase is really weak, but the scaling is wicked good. And that's why we often see the Garen Yuumi, because you get a bunch of Relic hold into it, you get the Ludens. So, yes, the early game bottom lane was unable to play through any sort of advantage. Ezreal Yuumi's very weak. The later this game goes, the better the Yuumi gets.
Xmithie just knocking down a ward right now. Yuumi not quite finding any poke just yet, but going toward the Athene's build, the more supportive of the ones. I definitely have seen a lot of the Luden's Echo builds where you really do funnel into her. I think that's usually when you have the Relic Shield teammate. Ones like this, it's going to have extra MR, extra CDR, extra shielding, extra healing.
And so now we're entering the stage of the game where I feel like AHQ have kind of botched their lane assignments. I would love to still have the ChoGath into the Gangplank and be playing a heavy 1-3-1. So they've had to give up their own blue buff to recover the lane states. Now they've found this, what I want to see them do is shove this mid lane wave up as far as it can possibly go and look to try and chip down on these outer turrets. In a 1-3-1, if you have mid lane priority, you guarantee first move to every single play, and you should start being able to pull this team fight comp apart.
Game state right now, 2,000 gold difference. Team Liquid with non-combat Drakes. Ocean and Mountain. Next Mountain spawns in 3.5 as they once again look at where they can be. Impact took some time toppling. Couldn't knock down that turret, though. Still, the only turret TL have taken is that bottom outer a long time ago. AHQ broke mid. That's it for them. As Xmithie takes down a blue buff and waits for Jensen to come over to hand it over.
And the game can still turn very quickly. Liquid has a Mountain Drake and good pick potential. So if Core and Jensen find one good kill onto Alex, the overall damage of AHQ is relatively low if they don't get a good initiation. So 1 or 2 picks for TL could very quickly turn into a Baron, and that would be the game. They just have to find the right opportunity.
And you can see that upsetting how AHQ want to play. They're continually swapping this LeBlanc around, fishing for the favorable matchups, trying to set Jensen up for success. And every time they do that, they're able to grab, a little bit of mid lane priority, maybe a cheeky camp, or the potential to be able to dive a top lane turret.
And it's at least the claw away. And you talk about getting around into lane matchups. Team Liquid very much up in farm. You're seeing 20 for the Gangplank. Only a few for the LeBlanc, but 30 here for the Xayah. So just acquiring gold at the very least is giving TL a mid-game lead.
Yeah, and overall, I think Team Liquid should be relatively comfortable with their state in this game. As a team, they've had pretty good macro. You'd think that, especially after being able to come from behind against AHQ, they'd be confident in their ability to do that again. And AHQ hasn't shown that same level of macro. From as far as like a frontline standard team comp perspective, AHQ has it, but TL would feel pretty comfortable.
I absolutely agree with you, because if there's a stage of the game that you're comfortable at, Athene's Yuumi, as well as 2 items on Wako, but they're just getting pushed in on every single lane. Right now, TL are bullying AHQ at the stage of the game that I feel is honestly nearly AHQ's strongest point.
Well, they might be running out of opportunities then on the AHQ side as the pushes keep going in, and maybe NA fans can breathe a little sigh of relief as Team Liquid do look to be in control right here. Jensen still putting auto attacks down. 2 more knock the turret. There it goes. And another turret on the board for Team Liquid.
And they take the push lanes into another turret. And with a small reset here, I think we have a little bit more time to talk about the comps. One thing that I'm thinking about here is the front line for AHQ could end up being very strong. Jarvan ChoGath, which makes it okay in 5v5 team fights. But beyond that, they don't have good sustained damage. So it's like they have the front line of a traditional team fight team, but not necessarily the sustained damage.
So I like the thought process behind it. However, I do feel like they have to come from a different angle, because what we've seen traditionally, if Xayah is playing front to back, is that her feathers will just draw you in, and then all of a sudden your damage dealers cannot chase onto what is now a big gap between, you know, the feathers. Oh, hold the thought.
Almost finds something. The ult actually got burned. Jensen managed to bait that one out, pulling back just in time.
Yeah, really nicely played from Jensen. So what I'm saying is, if you're Alex and Ziv, you have to be very aware of how many feathers DoubleLift has put into you and kind of the separation between yourself and your damage dealers, because it can be very easy as a Xayah to split up these fights.
That Lissandra ultimate, she's a fairly easy target. Only has flash with the disengage, tries to wave clear, does so pretty cleanly. Turret at half HP, Team Liquid not getting a lot of damage in. So HQ get the safe wave clear and keep their base alive. We had seen Impact fight with Ziv a while ago. That seemed fine for the Gangplank. He's still farming up. There's a few more pieces come through, and
also looks like an interesting build on the Gangplank. Looks like we might have another lethality Gangplank on Summoner's Rift.
Steric's Gauge is surely to stop the ChoGath or the Lissandra from being able to burst him.
Yep. This could be a lot of things. Even Essence Reaver builds out of that one, so we'll see what it actually turns into, but wait to see. Not going to find the barrel chain just yet, but the Mountain Drake, number 2 of the game, is alive. Alex puts down the flag, which means the engage angle is shown. Ziv finds a silence, knocks up, and they might go for Xmithie. He's been the target the last few times.
Rainbow's ultimate's almost back up, so as soon as that is, we can see a fight.
Giant root, though. They force Alex away, and here comes the re-engage. Xmithie pops the stopwatch. Impact very, very low. Cannon Barrage buys some space, though. They knock in Rainbow. The charm there as well, and a kill comes through to DoubleLift. The second root comes through on a Ziv. He put in the second chain, forcing the flash out.
And you can just see how hard these team fights are going to be. That was nearly perfect. Multiple angles, as well as the ultimates available for the fight, but you can see the stand and deliver power of Xayah is unmatched on the current patch. DoubleLift just able to swing the fight.
Yeah, up to a 450 gold bounty because his CS is so high, and he's on a 2-killing spree. So DoubleLift getting the majority of the team's gold now, which is exactly what you want to see from TL.
And the story of DoubleLift in the North American LCS is just so fun, because I know people will point to, you know, Jensen exploding this team into the international roster, or CoreJJ's addition. But watch the AD carry of Liquid, because his addition is what made this team a championship contender. Gets the double root, gets so much damage out, kiting back beautifully, is never in threat range for this fight, and just pumping out consistent damage.
And on the other side, Rainbow attempted his all-in initiation, but he burned everything on a Gragas, who just had a stopwatch to prevent it from being lethal. And then when you go into a fight as Lissandra like that, and you don't actually lock down a carry, you're probably just going to lose the fight straight up.
We reset now. Second Mountain Drake, of course, already equipped by Team Liquid, and they've brought the gold lead now to 3,500. This blue buff easily handed over, and you have to believe their eyes now turn to a Baron setup as top scuttle not being fought over. The 2.5 item situation here for DoubleLift, QSS plus a BF sword.
And it's probably too hard for Liquid to think about this in the midst of a game, but average win time is important in this group. If we're at a 4-2, 4-2, 4-2 time, you'd want to try and do something faster, but they at the same time don't want to throw away their lead.
Jatt, just take the win. Like, at the end of the day, you're going to have to play a tiebreaker somewhere.
That's what they're thinking.
Absolutely it is, and I think that, you know, we see that they are on the path towards that. QSS picked up for DoubleLift. He recognizes one of the only ways they lose these team fights now is if he gets caught out. So just stay safe, build up to the Infinity Edge as your third item. They go again.
Oh, DoubleLift forced to burn the ultimate to stay away from this one. Still going to find a bit of damage. Looking for the root, though. Once Alex finally goes in, might win that duel, force a flash away, finds the root now on a Rainbow, and it's already 1-for-0. That's already Wako dead. Self-ult now out of the Lissandra. They might find the re-engage. They do. Impact grabs kill number 2. Ziv nearly invincible, but cannot find someone to kill. Just slowly waddling away, getting a knock-up, and now you can turn the attention towards Alex, then back towards Ziv, then back towards Ysera, and that's going to be going to sleep out of that one now. Once again onto the ChoGath. Tanky, but not tanky enough. It's kill after kill after kill after kill for Team Liquid.
That's the fight that Liquid needed to break this game open. And when we get to the replay, after TL likely takes Baron, you have to look at DoubleLift and how he played that fight, specifically around his use of Flash. The timing was perfect, and it was exactly what we've been talking about as far as bringing the feathers through the team towards the back end of the fight.
Yeah, and I mean, the setup there from AHQ was probably as good as you could hope. Mismatch numbers once again on the mid lane fight. But as we mentioned, you have to be very aware as a tank how you're playing against Xayah, because if you're Lissandra, you cannot enter this fight. Look at all the feathers that Rainbow is so aware of. Finally goes through the flash from DoubleLift, rips them back, and all of a sudden Rainbow up the paddle, up the creek without a paddle.
Rainbow saw the play. A tenth of a second later from DoubleLift on that flash, he gets locked down by Lissandra. They maybe lose the fight because their sustained damage is down, but by outplaying that way, TL destroy the fight.
And this is the thing, you know, now that you're just a tank lineup, you cannot actually go with the consistent damage that is going to be there from Liquid. This was always the problem with the composition that AHQ put together. They didn't get enough of a mid lane advantage. And now, at 28 minutes into the game, Baron buff on Liquid, I don't even know whether they have the wave clear to survive.
They might not, but we'll see how much gets claimed right now. Only 4 turrets taken off the map. Looks like the side lanes still have their two turrets alive. You can see that's where some of the pushes are going. Top being ignored, but bot pushed in.
And now this could once again be a very long, drawn-out game, kind of the way we saw Down 1 play last time around, you know, waiting for the item spikes, because you have Baron, you have the ability to siege right now, but you also have, you know, another Infernal Dragon going to be spawning.
There's also the other way of looking at it, that Rainbow would need to engage to make this game end, and if they go too far,
well, they
could
brought
just be
him
over.
in. The cast says, please engage, please drop down, please die, and indeed he does. Team Liquid 11-5 out of this one.
Yeah, and look, I didn't account for the fact that maybe AHQ would be the ones that look for the initiation, as Jensen, again, a hell of a lot of damage.
Poking them down lower and lower. Yuumi only has so many healing charges, and TL putting the damage in faster. Mid lane inhibitor cracked open. The turret is gone, which means the inhib is the target. And who's going to really stop Impact right now?
Ooh.
The third barrel comes across. Wako pushed off. Xmithie only going to find some poke, but the mid inhib is down. Almost 30 minutes in, and TL looking inside the base. It's still 5v4. You talk about win time. It's only 30 minutes, and they can look for the Nexus turrets right now. The chain's coming across. Jensen can't quite find the root, and TL with the teammate knocked up. Impact forced to flash away, but the re-engage for CoreJJ might mean the kills come across. Wako barely staying alive as the respawns do come through. 5 members of AHQ might stop the push, but TL don't find the autos on the turret just yet. They might look for Rainbow. Ult comes across for Ezreal. 1 turret now down. Looking for the re-engage. The root onto Ziv. TL staying around. They have the ocean region. The health bar's not too bad right now. When does the next cooldown get burned? Alex the front line, still 2,000 HP. Wako forced backwards yet again. The turret under siege. Team Liquid looking to close it out in fairly short order into the back line. A great disengage for Wako. That's a pickoff. This could be a re-engage, or will it be the Nexus? Team Liquid diving in, but dying all the same. A 1-for-1. 4v4 on the map right now. Impact cutting backwards, but TL still sticking around, trying to find those last little bits of damage. Minions flood into the base. They're going to go for the Nexus yet again. They should be able to close it out, and they do. Team Liquid still in control of their own fate.
And a nice ending there by Team Liquid after giving up 2 kills in the early game, especially with all the baggage they carry into the World Championship, knowing that this was as close to a must-win as you're going to get without it actually being a must-win. So 31-minute victory by Team Liquid. Now their eyes are set on that final game they have in the day against IG.
Yeah, and this time around, I felt like they had the correct recipe, that they followed the steps necessary. A little bit of a botched step at the start there with the fight in the river, but afterwards were able to regain control of the game. And it is very easy to identify when Liquid is playing well, because a lot of the steps they're taking are very obvious and make a lot of sense. But I feel like that's what they need to consistently be able to do to get out of this group.
And if we talk about consistency, the performance there by Impact and Jensen was back to what you want to see out of them. 305 on Impact's Gangplank, 503 on Jensen's LeBlanc, and both of them very solid contributors in this game, where the solo lanes were mostly isolated. They're going to need to do that against IG.
Well, they fought IG last week, and Invictus Gaming came through with the win. Team Liquid probably need to